So to leave that stability in the beginning was a huge risk, but the best risk I've ever taken. And now I close deals. One deal, I could make more than I would have made my entire teaching salary.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to take the risk, because with no risk, there's no reward. And you'll literally be where you are today if you don't take a risk, if you don't take the jump. People ask me, Brooke, what's your end goal? What's your 5-year plan? And I'm like, I don't have one, because every day my systems, my processes, my goals change.
Get ready for the next iteration of you on your path to becoming wealthy. On this show, you'll get the insider's view on wealth creation, the class none of us got taught in school, with my co-host, daughter, and beginning investor, Sophia Bosch. And now, let's get started. Welcome to the Becoming Wealthy podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Bosch, my co-host here,
Sophia Bosch.
And we have a super special guest with us today. We are excited to bring in a top producer, in the real estate arena as an agent. She is out of Massachusetts. Her name is Brooke Coughlin. She's a former teacher, and she is now the top realtor and top producer, Massachusetts area, Connecticut, Rhode Island. She has sold over $100 million worth of real estate in those areas. She's also a real estate investor. She invests in multifamily, Airbnb, and just long-term investing. Also runs a parallel also cleaning company, which I'm sure goes very well with the real estate hand in hand. And she is a best-selling author. So we are so excited to have you here, Brooke. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for having me. I love this mother-daughter duo, and I'm excited to spend the next hour or so chatting with you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brooke. So, Sophia, you want to kick us off with the first question?
Yeah. So my mom just mentioned that you were a former teacher and then transitioned to a real estate agent. What made you want to switch? And also, what were you teaching? Just curious.
Yeah. So I was teaching 7th grade English.
Okay.
I grew up in a family of educators. My dad's a principal, my mom's a teacher, and that's kind of all I knew. And I was like, okay, I'm going to follow in their footsteps. I'm going to become a teacher too. Maybe I'll go down the administration path, and I'll retire at 65 with a pension. That was kind of my plan. And it's because that's what I grew up with, which is nothing wrong with that, but that's all that I knew. And when I was actually in college to become a teacher, I started a cleaning business.
Okay.
And this cleaning business is going to lead to real estate. And I was a 7th grade teacher. One day after school, I went to a client's house to give them a quote for cleaning. Little did I know these people owned a real estate brokerage. Okay. And I was taking them around their house, showing them what I would do, how much things would cost. And remember, for this cleaning company, I just own it. At this point, I wasn't actually cleaning, so I'm just the face of it. And I was taking them around the house, giving my spiel. And they said, Brooke, do you have any interest in selling real estate? And I was like, I like HGTV. I like looking at homes on Realtor.com and Zillow, but I never actually thought about being an agent. Mm-hmm. And they said, with your personality, we think you'd be great. How about take the course, pass the test, and join our team? And then I did that, was balancing being a 7th grade teacher too. Mm-hmm. And I realized that it wasn't fair, one, to my 7th graders, that I was not giving them my full focus. And 2, it wasn't fair to my clients who are trusting me with their biggest assets, buying or selling, during the 7:30 to 2:30 period when I'm in front of kids. So I made the executive decision to say goodbye to teaching and jump in full to real estate.
Yeah. And I mean, we actually have in our, coaching, universe, because we coach, we invest in land, and we also coach others on how to invest in land. And we have a former, performing arts teacher, where she was like, Michelle, I was, making, at most $60,000 a year, with bonuses and this and working extremely hard. And I now can make on a single land flip, the salary of an entire year. And so I wonder, what was that difference for you in terms of like, your very first year in real estate and your first versus what, your income as a teacher?
Right. And with teaching in the beginning, it's very consistent. You make the same amount of money every 2 weeks. It hits your bank account. And I'll never forget, I remember sitting there weighing my pros and cons before I was telling my principal I'm done. And every 2 weeks I was making, this is crazy, $1,400 every 2 weeks. And that paid for my condo, that paid for my car, my gas, my groceries. And I was extremely nervous to give that up because being a realtor, being an entrepreneur, like you're chasing your next deal. You don't get paid until things close. So
Sophia understands that really well.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So to leave that stability in the beginning was a huge risk, but the best risk I've ever taken. And now I close deals. One deal I could make more than I would have made my entire teaching salary.
Yeah.
And like you close 4 or 5 deals a month, even that is more than a teacher's salary in the entire year.
Yeah.
So no risk, no reward.
Yeah, absolutely. That's now do you go back and at some point, say I miss it, or are you in some way, shape or form bringing in, the teacher in you comes to educate maybe, your sellers or maybe other agents and so on and so forth?
Yes, I miss the kids. I loved the kids, but I say that the teacher in me never really goes away. Like when I do my listing appointments, like I just had one today, one of the things I always say is I'll break down the entire process for you. I no longer teach 7th graders, but I teach adults on how to buy or sell. The teacher never goes away in you. I created She Closes Deals, which is a community for other agents to learn from my experiences to be $100 million real estate agent. So I'm teaching other agents how to. And just the other day, somebody asked me on a podcast, what is your superpower? And I'm like, oh God, what is my superpower? But I think it's the ability to teach. Okay. Because no matter what you're teaching, whether it's 7th grade English, whether it's how to buy or sell a house, whether it's how to build a multimillion-dollar career in real estate, you still have the power to be able to talk and teach different people who are in front of you. And I think that's an extremely valuable trait.
Now, I know you mentioned that you were wanting, to give back to other agents and you have a community for them. For a woman that would be hearing, us and listening to this podcast or watching this video, and they're considering, going into becoming an agent. Okay, you go through realtor school, you have your license, you then look to hang it with a brokerage. And now what? How do we actually, maybe the progression as to how do we get to from that point to listing a house, to selling it, and to earning some commission?
I would say my biggest advice would be to find a mentor, whether that's a community you join, She Closes Deals, but even in your brokerage itself, find a mentor, find somebody who's doing bigger and better than you are, and latch on to them. And also, like, you don't just want to be latching on to them. You want to be able to provide them value. So like I have an assistant now who actually just got her real estate license. It's her first year, and I'm 9 months pregnant, due in 2 weeks. So I took her on to help me, but she's learning so much. And she's also assisting me in things that like open houses, showings, boots on the ground. But she's also getting my one-on-one time, experience, knowledge, yes, to help me, but also to build her business. Because she's not always going to be Brooke Coughlin's assistant. She's going to be Elizabeth Duffy, top realtor in her community as well. So finding a mentor is so important.
Now, do you focus on becoming a listing agent for sellers, or are you more of a buyer's agent? Like, tell us a little bit about, like just think of the fact that Sophia hired, a realtor to help her sell her piece of land, but in itself as a career, as an agent, she has absolutely no clue. So just like break it down for us.
Oh, we take everything and anything. I'm a buyer's agent. I'm a seller's agent. I'm a therapist. We do it all. Okay. A lot of times being a buyer's agent will then lead to being a seller's agent. So it's all where your deals come from. Like last year, I closed 65 deals. I would say it's probably half and half being representing buyers, representing sellers. In my current market in Massachusetts, I prefer the seller agent side, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't take on buyers, because we get paid when we close, no matter what side that we're working on.
Wait, why do you prefer to one side or the other in certain markets?
Okay, that's a great question. So right now in Massachusetts, I'm not sure about Arizona, but it's a really hot sellers market. So when I'm working with sellers, I am offering top-notch service, obviously, but we price their houses accordingly with top photography, videography, marketing, everything like that. And let's say we list it on a Wednesday. Wednesdays are my favorite listing days of the week. Showing starts right away. We'll do open houses Saturday and Sunday. And the likelihood, if we priced it correctly, we'll be under agreement by Monday. So like my time with my sellers, realistically, I mean, our contract is a lot longer than a week. It's a 3-month contract, but realistically, I'm working with the sellers to get under agreement in a week timeline versus buyers. You could show buyers 1,010,000 houses and they could decide, hey, I don't want to buy right now, or I hated every single one of these. And then you do your time for money and you're like, I've spent so many hours with them, and sure, I might make 10 grand on it, but the time and energy and effort spent on these buyers outweighs what I'll make at the end.
Yeah, makes sense.
And another part of why I like sellers better, which again, we take everything, but right now, at least in Massachusetts, sellers are able to dictate commissions. So seller agents are able to dictate commissions. So when I sit down and I'm being interviewed to be a seller's agent, the sellers are paying the commissions. So I actually
wanted to ask you a little bit about that, because as of August 17th, basically, rules change, and no longer you have this implicit assumption that the seller is paying, for example, for buyer's commission and so on and so forth. Can you explain a little bit of like what was that rule change and how has it affected you, either positively or negatively?
Yeah. So as of August 17th, the whole NAR lawsuit has changed. And for the past X amount of years, sellers were responsible for paying for their seller's agents fees and buyer's agents fees. And that's just how it always was. Buyers, agents were free to buyers as of August 17th. However, I'm not seeing a massive shift. Now, since August 17th, we just can't advertise that they're offering commission. However, every client that I'm sitting down with, I'm still proposing for them to put a 2% commission aside for buyer's agents. If buyer's agents want to show the house, they're going to be more inclined to show my listing if I'm offering compensation rather than if I'm not. Because what buyer, especially first-time home buyers, have an additional 2% to pay out of pocket for their agent?
Yeah. And not only that, but for example, like the seller or the, like if you're financing a home, I mean, unless the payment of the agent, if you have as a buyer having an agent representing, unless that is also able to be rolled into the mortgage, like you said, people don't have the $2,000. So
yes.
Okay. So unofficially then it is still being basically compensated, by the seller, because it's in the seller's best interest to get that house or that piece of property moving.
We just can't advertise it, but every deal I've done since August 17th, I've still had my sellers pay. My buyers, nobody's had to pay me $1. We might see switches as time goes on, but not much has changed. But to answer your question about, again, why I like the selling side, because you're in more control. So when I work with sellers, I always say, you get what you pay for. You could find a realtor who will do it cheaper, of course, just like you could find anybody to do things cheaper, but you get what you pay for. So I charge 6%, which pays for myself and for the buyer's agent. I keep 4% on the listing side and I pass out 2%. So when you're a buyer's agent, typically you're expecting, at least in Massachusetts, you're expecting a 2% commission. Versus when I list houses, I'm getting 4%. I'm getting double.
Yeah.
So more time for my money, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And and you know the difference now. Sophia had the task from her coach to basically look for the top producer in the state of Arizona, in the county of Maricopa, that specialized in land. And so she went through, I don't know, 100 and how many listings? Over
Probably 150, probably more.
And
Wow.
and what was your process to find basically the top producer?
So look at both the buying and selling agents,
Yep.
and see, basically copy and paste them all into something,
Into a spreadsheet?
Yeah, and count how many times you see that the same person come up, and
Yep.
depending on how many times they come up, like obviously one is going to stand out, and one indeed stood out, and it was indeed the best option in my opinion.
Wow.
Yeah. We had a basically, in the short list, we had 3 people. And actually the one that was coming up the most was a gentleman, which Sophia called, and oh my God,
Lord.
Brooke, it was if
so
that's
bad.
how he answers the call was our our assumption, like how he is treating us on the call, and that's how he's going to treat our buyer, our potential buyer. He definitely is not our person. And then we went to like the second person, and the second person was a lady, a gal. And she right away was asking all the right questions.
Very friendly, very nice.
Friendly, and really educating us on the specific submarket in which the property was in, and so on and so forth. And right away we knew, okay, we found what we like to call in our world, like the Michael Jordan of land for that specific submarket,
Are you basketball fans?
Yes. Yes.
Me too.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
No, I watch.
Yeah, we hold season tickets, so she and Dad will go and watch the Phoenix Suns play and cheer for them.
Special.
Yeah.
Very special. Love that. Love other basketball fans.
Yes. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah. That this is still basically, in spite of this change, that if it's in the seller's interest to offer it, why not? That it's still being the case now in your area. How much do realtors? Do you know by chance? Do realtors typically pay or are compensated for land when they're trying to sell a piece of land?
Land for us up here is not like our specialty. It's not my specialty, I should say. So like right now, actually, I have 2 land listings, and I'm like, land listings, just because I don't make that much money on them. Yeah. So let's say we have a piece of land. I have a piece of land listing right now in my hometown. It's 1.25 acres of land. It's listed for $89,000, and I make 2% off of that.
Oh, okay.
It's not that great versus if I'm selling, let's say a $600,000 house and I'm making 2%. It's a lot higher to be in the housing market than the land market. Yeah.
That's why for us in the land market, we actually have to pay 10% commission. So Sophia, on that $40,000, she paid 10%. So that was a $4,000, and like you, like she basically, the listing went live actually on a Saturday. And by Tuesday of next week, we had 2 competing offers, one for $36,000 all cash and one for $40,000 with seller financing with a $15,000 down payment. So we took that because we could pay with the $15,000 the seller, the $6,000. We could pay Kelly, who was our realtor, $4,000. We could pay $1,200 closing costs.
And then still left me with $3,800.
Yeah, I still left her with $3,800. So cash in her pocket. And now she gets, for the next 5 years, she's getting
$526 a month
in monthly payment.
That's absolutely incredible. See, there are so many different avenues that you can go down. And speaking of different avenues, do you mind? I'm going to turn my light on. It's getting dark. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
It's getting a little dark.
Oh, we can see the baby.
You see the baby? Holy moly! Any day, any day, literally. But speaking of different avenues, are you guys familiar with syndications by chance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do a lot of buying and selling, but not a lot of syndications. And I just had a deal cross my plate the other day where this big investor said, Brooke, would you have any interest in helping fund one of my deals? There will be 6 limited partners in here. If you give us $100,000 within 3 years, we'll refinance and you'll have your 100,000 back, make 100,000 on top of that in 3 years. And I'm very good at putting my money into investment accounts, stocks, everything like that. But I'm like, where can I double my money in 3 years and not have people call me with headaches? You know, like I'm a limited partner. I'm just literally giving you my money and you're growing it. No one's calling me. This is amazing.
I will definitely let you know next time we have our next syndication.
Yeah. But there's just so many different avenues and outlets out there that I'm like, you know what? This makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's basically what we do for our investors as well. It's depending on each project. Some projects are with a 3-year horizon, some of them with a 5-year horizon. But typically no less than 3, because it takes a little bit to basically clean up the property when it comes, to turning around sometimes the quality of the tenants, and you can only do those as the leases come due, or deferred maintenance that also needs to happen in the interior of the units. That can also, so it takes a little bit to basically stabilize the property and be able to, refi, and at some point, give money back. And at that point, either decide to hold long-term or sell or exit at that point in time. So I love that you're not just an agent, but that you're open to all these things, because typically, what I hear or what I come across is an agent that maybe is friendly to an investor, but doesn't want to become or be in the shoes of the investor and invest as well, and you know what I mean, and why not? Absolutely, why not?
What is that?
But why would an investor buyer work with an agent who's not an investor themselves? That's what drives me crazy. I'm like, if I see investors working with not investor friendly agents, I'm like, what are you doing? They don't do it themselves. They don't know the ins and the outs. And that's just another selling feature for agents like myself, because we are investors ourselves. So we see it on a regular basis. So we can also teach it to our clients.
Now, what markets are you doing a little bit more of your long-term investing and the Airbnbs?
So I still do it in Massachusetts. They're all close to my house. We have 2 families, 3 families, short-term rentals, Airbnbs. We also manage other people's Airbnbs. And Sophia,
that's what I figured.
This is amazing. And if I could get you into this, I give you all of my secrets. But managing other people's Airbnbs has been brilliant, because it's 0 of your own money invested, and you're just taking care of other people's properties and making a percentage of every nightly stay. Yeah. So we manage other people's Airbnbs for 30% of their nightly stay, where I have not paid $1 into this property. Yeah.
Kind of like what our friend Marriott does. Yeah. We have one Airbnb here in Sedona because we wanted to we love this area for hiking. And we're like, how can we own a home there without costing us any money? And so we found this little ugly duckling that we completely remodeled and renovated and turned it into an Airbnb. And now we actually can't get in because it's fully booked. That's a good thing. But I have a friend also that is doing that. She's taking away the burden of me having to go from really being an investor to a person that is in hospitality, which is not necessarily my forte and my genius zone or my superpower, and it is hers. And so it sounds like it is yours as well. Like you got down, all that turning and really making each person's, stay incredibly special. And so she manages our own home, 3 other homes that she owns as well. And yeah, it's a fantastic additional way to do it. Like you said, with no money of your own into the deal. Yeah.
Right.
How many do you manage, Brooke?
We five. We manage five.
That is nice.
And,
That is
and
nice.
want to keep growing. So
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we just haven't been really necessarily putting our focus towards that. But that business in itself is amazing. But we're also learning like who we want to work with and who we don't want to work with in the Airbnb business. We have learned we want to work with owners who are very hands off. I do very well when somebody like gives me their property and says, go.
Yeah.
Versus owners who want to be involved in every single step of the way, because
Yeah.
we have so much going on a regular basis that I just like to make executive decisions as we go
Yeah,
versus having to.
it makes complete sense. Now, I would have never thought as Massachusetts as like a place where Airbnb would because I'm always thinking. I mean, it
Who
is,
travels
but
to
at
Massachusetts?
yeah, but it's cold most of the year. Is what is in my mind. You know what I mean?
The whole East, like, Mama, it's just because we're on the West Coast, the whole East Coast.
It's
But
beautiful. I know.
You're right, but you have to target specific areas. So, like my cleaning company that I owned, and as of September 1st, I actually just sold. But we were very close with wedding venues. So we parked Airbnbs next to wedding venues, next to big breweries, event spaces.
Okay, that
on
makes
the water,
sense.
Close to the water, not the
Yeah,
ocean.
on the water. Yeah.
Makes complete sense.
And people come from all over the place.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, that makes
works.
sense. It works absolutely. Now, for a woman that is listening to us, and we could, possibly we know we have listeners that are both demographics. A teenage demographic, women in their 40s and 50s. What piece of advice would you have for a woman that is looking to get into real estate, or transitioning, changing career path, or just in general? What would be your big piece of advice if you could go back and be like, Brookie, this is what you should do? These three things.
Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to take the risk, because with no risk, there's no reward. And you'll literally be where you are today if you don't take a risk, if you don't take the jump. I'm still very keen on finding a mentor, find somebody who's doing it bigger and better than you are. It's going to open your eyes to a whole new world, learn everything you possibly can from them. Say yes to every single opportunity, especially in the beginning. Like, don't turn anything down. Everything you do is going to be a learning experience to get you to another place. Doesn't mean you have to stay in that place forever, but you're going to learn something or somebody from it, which will take you to your next destination. I would say those are definitely my top three things. Find a mentor, take advantage of every single opportunity, and take that risk.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, one final question that we like to ask all our guests, and that is, what does wealth mean to you? What does becoming wealthy mean to you?
That's a great question. I would say freedom. It means freedom. And a lot of times, like, people ask me, Brooke, what's your end goal? What's your 5-year plan? And I'm like, I don't have one, because every day my systems, my processes, my goals change. And if I look back from where I was a year ago, from where I was 5 years ago, I'm a completely different person. And I think that's a good thing, because as you're growing, you're becoming somebody new. And I think that's going to take you to new levels.
Awesome. Well, thank you so very much for being here with us. If someone wanted to connect with you, is in the Massachusetts market, and they're like, okay, my house is coming up for sale, I want to sell. How can people get a hold of you and reach you?
Okay, of course. I'm very big on Instagram, Brooke E. Coughlin. And then my She Closes Deals community with my book and my course. That's www.sheclosesdeals.com.
I love that. She closes deals. She closes deals too. Woohoo!
I love that. Yeah. And start using that tagline, start using that slogan. And something else that I'm learning, Sophia, is that you have to be your own biggest cheerleader. Yes, and mom will always be your biggest cheerleader too. My mom will be too. But like, you have to believe that you are absolutely unstoppable, because that's going to radiate to everybody else.
Yes.
And then guess what? You're not going to care about what anybody else thinks because you believe you're unstoppable.
And I love that you mentioned that, because I think sometime for us, for us women, we think of, oh my gosh, I don't want to come across as being arrogant, when I'm my own biggest cheerleader. But sometimes we need to be,
Oh yeah. The amount of times I feel cringy from posting multiple times a week or a day, no, that's helped in my success tremendously. I want people to see my face and my name in their sleep, even if they're not ready to buy or sell a house today. Guess what? Their brother might be, their sister, their cousin. And when they are ready, they're going to think of me because I post so many times.
She's top of mind. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I think that is probably right there, gold at the very end. I mean, from beginning to end, but that was a great way, to wrap up this episode. Thank you so very much, Brooke, for being with us and taking time, even though I know you're in high alert mode right now with the expectation of the baby coming and being due anytime. So thank you for being with us, and wishing you a speedy delivery and and all great things to come. Thank you so very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be connected, and who knows, it's a small world.
Absolutely. We're here for you. And if we can be of any service here in the Arizona market, we definitely reach out to us. You now have two friends in the land space. Well, in land and multifamily space.
Yep. And your syndications, you said, right? You've got opportunities everywhere. So
absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, ladies. Have a good night.